Hello and welcome to the Spooky Screen. My name is Steven and I am a host of this podcast. And along with me are my hosts, Nick, Noah, Johnny, and David. And today we'll be discussing episode 4 of season 2 of Yellowjackets. It's titled Old Wounds. Feel free to subscribe to our channel and catch up on episode by episode breakdowns of Yellowjackets season 2 and season 1. Spoiler alert, we will be breaking down episode 4 in detail starting right now. So let's get into it. What did we think about episode 4? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
It sucked. It sucked hard.
All right. So all 5 of us did not like this episode, which officially puts the Spooky Screen protocol into effect, which I'll get into
activating
later.
the Spooky Screen Protocol X.
Explain.
Should I explain it right now?
Yeah.
Basically, if all 5 of the hosts disliked an episode, we're going to take a vote at the end of the recording on whether we want to continue reviewing this season of television episode by episode. So we'll get to the vote in due time. But let's discuss this episode first. David, can you give us a breakdown of why you dislike this episode?
Right. This episode was.
You take the glasses off. I can't.
No, I'm not going to take my glasses off. This episode. This episode was a barrage of bullets, but if all those bullets were blank, meaning that you feel the rushedness of this episode, and I have a point. Whereas I feel like the writers and the showrunners have opened up all these threads, and they did some development last episode, and it was pretty good. And we had some focus last episode, and it was pretty good. But this episode, they're just rushing to throw stuff that is supposed to be impactful and is supposed to be like these monumentous reveals and moments. But there's so many in this episode that ultimately by the end of the episode, you feel like you've watched nothing. There's so many crazy reveals in this episode. We get Javi in this episode. We get Van in this episode. And I forgot that we got Javi. Like by the end of the episode, I was thinking about what I was going to write in our grid. And I'm like, oh yeah, we saw Javi. And it feels like all these major moments were just brushed over just to rush on to the next episode. And it was just all these like little bricks just thrown, like here's like a road being built, but they were like, I don't know.
David's got metaphors for days.
Metaphors for days, baby.
Yeah.
Blank bullets barrage. That's a cool
Brick
name.
road to nowhere.
You feel the rush.
I made the blank bullet reference work. I feel like it was a bunch of like things that were supposed to be impactful, but they didn't have any.
David, you don't have to justify it.
I
They didn't
got
have any weight.
I'm gonna put it all in Midjourney and visualizer for you.
And if I had to title your summary, it's Much Ado About Nothing.
There you
Right.
go.
Yeah, there you go.
Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah. So I think that's your main complaint here, is that there were substantive developments, but it didn't feel consequential. I think that's what you're
Right.
getting at. It didn't feel consequential enough for you to remember them. All right, Nick, hit us with your reasons for disliking this episode.
Okay, so I saw the last episode. I know I wasn't here. Your boy's back. It's great. I know, subscribe because of me. Anyway, so I saw the last episode, and when I watched the last episode, I was just like, oh my goodness, I think I'm starting to appreciate this show and see all the things Steven's talking about, which is surprising because I love crapping on this show. And then the show crapped on me this episode. This show has such a frustrating lack of focus. And that's the best way I could describe it. I agree with David where it has all these moments that are supposed to be really impactful, but they brush over it because they're like, we don't want you to focus on the important things. We want you to focus on the really not like unimportant things, which is so annoying. Like if you don't care about all the big things that you're trying to tell us as a story matter, then why do we as a viewer care to stay engaged with it, you know? Like, it was so many things that meant something, and they're like, yeah, but anyway, I know this is a big deal, but that's not important right now, because we found a moose, and I'm like, that's cool and all, but we know they live, so we know they're not really going to go hungry. Like this, that I don't care. You know, like all the things that matter don't matter, and all the things that don't matter matter for some reason.
All right, Nick. Thank you. I think to summarize your breakdown, no, I can't come up with a book title again. But there's a lack of focus, I think, and the redirection is a bit irritating.
Yes,
because they keep redirecting your focus away from the big reveals to things of little consequence. I think that's what you're getting at here.
and you can title that Harry Potter and the audacity this show keeps trying to have.
Oh my god.
Okay. All right, Johnny, Larry Bopper.
Larry Bopper, eh?
Why did you like?
I
Miss-
I
Why did you
did not
dislike
like
this
this episode, as we
Yes.
said, and
We know that.
I think Nick and David have said a lot of what we need to say. To be fair,
Yeah.
I think though I'll reaffirm that this episode covered a lot of ground, but nothing happened, and the things that probably should have mattered felt unimportant, and that's a real problem because at this point in the episode, the way they've built up, this should have been a very dynamic episode. There should have been some real consequential events that happened as a fallout of the previous 3 episodes and the setup. And it feels like the things that have happened don't have consequences here. And the things that were big and surprising, such as Javi and Van, didn't matter. Like as an audience watching, you didn't care. And if you did care, I don't understand why. So please comment why, because I legitimately don't understand why you would even care the way that they did it, the execution. They made more of a deal about a moose sinking, which is still meaningless, than discovering Javi, who's been missing for a bunch of episodes and has been driving part of the plot. So, like, it's a really big concern for me.
You know what the funny part of that is, Johnny? The moose sinking being a quote-unquote consequential reveal of this episode is that it would have been if the show was what Noah wanted to be, right? If it was just focused on the survival timeline and them losing the moose,
Exactly.
would have been gut-wrenching.
Devastating.
Because you're like, how are these girls going to survive?
Mm-hmm.
And they could have played that up for maximum dramatic effect. But because you know that they've already survived,
You can't.
that moose has little consequence, and you cannot put dramatic effect into that scene, right?
I mean,
sinks,
also,
and you're like,
I agree
well,
with
they're
you.
going to find something
Also,
else to eat.
this whole idea of this map of symbols, it feels toothless. Like you don't care because you don't. There's just all these things they're trying to build up about the larger plot, which you want to care about, like the symbol and Javi and Van. But then they just focus on these weird little relational things that have no consequence. And when things do happen and resolve, things just go back to normal and they move on. And you're like, wait, so what was the point of any of that? I don't
It's because
get it.
the show focuses on the short term and not the long term.
They focus on a little girl finding her mouse friend in the pantry.
I guess it's not my turn anymore. I handed my over.
All right, Noah, we're going to turn it over to you. You are in friendly company today.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
This
If
is
you've
a safe
been-
space
well.
for you.
If
This is a
you've
safe
been
space.
watching us,
I changed my vote. I like it.
Let your feelings be heard.
yeah. All the previous reasons why I don't like it, we've said many times before, and I'll try not to repeat it. The pacing, it took Taisa a whole episode to get from point A to point B. To see Van, that took an entire episode. The dual timeline structure continues to spoil each other. There's no tension in the previous, so it just feels like a waste of time. This episode, and I know that consequences has kind of been the word of the day so far. Everyone's kind of mentioned it, but I'll also kind of piggyback on that because it did stick out to me. This episode was that the series has a problem with payoff and consequences. There's so many plot threads that kind of just resolve and that's it. You never hear from it again, or maybe they're saving it for a later part in the season or future seasons. But either way, like I'll give a few examples. The last few episodes, Javi's been missing. Javi's found. No real consequences there. He's found safe and sound. The Jackie gets eaten. No one really brings that up past that happening, so there's no real consequences felt there. Even
Well, that I'll disagree, Noah. Like Ben did taunt them.
okay, no tangible consequences of impact.
He tangibly taunted them.
Okay, he got a little upset at
Kidding, I'm
them.
messing.
He got a
I'm
little
messing with
upset
you.
at them. Okay, um, Adam being murdered in the previous season has had no real effect so far. The woman in the car that Misty murdered has no real effect. Lottie being a cult leader is not going to have any real effect when Misty and Walter show up because she's pretty much revealed herself as a good guy. Like there's just
Yeah, Taisa almost killing her wife.
even the
ex.
very central plot of the story of these women, these girls surviving the wilderness and becoming cannibals and then coming back to normal life has no real consequences because they've got to live pretty much a semi-normal life that no one really knows what happened. Any future things that happen, I know that it's just going to be resolved. Just like Shauna's daughter finding out that she murdered someone and then all of a sudden they're good by the end of this episode. Like it just feels like there's going to be no real payoff. And I'll give an example of how in TV shows, like when Ned Stark, spoiler for Game of Thrones, gets his head beheaded. It has major consequences that carry throughout the entire season that are tangible and have a tremendous impact on the story. The North gets involved in a war with the Lannisters. The Starks have to go on a run. Like there's just so much that you feel the weight of it. I get that these little things could be saved up for later, like you'll maybe eventually feel it, but when you stretch it too thin, like all of us are experiencing, it reduces the impact. And that's what I mean by tangible consequences. Yes, there might be consequences later, but you have to make the audience feel it now. You have to make the audience feel like we're going towards something and our characters are getting in more and more trouble. It gets us more and more invested.
So my thoughts on the episode pretty much mirror and overlap with what everyone else has said up to this point. I think what it comes down to for me personally was episode 3 was a good setup episode. It was filler, but it did set up a lot of things that I was expecting to happen in episode 4. I didn't know exactly what those things were, but at the end of the day, I was expecting payoff, some sort of finality, good substantive developments, and a bit of dramatic effect or flair throughout the developments that happened in the episode. And I don't think we got a lot of that. And that feels disappointing to me because you can only bank so much on the patience of your audience up to a point until they start to get frustrated with the way that you're telling a story. And I couldn't help but feel frustrated while watching episode 4. I felt like I was being dragged around a little bit for an episode 5 or an episode 6. And every time there was a new development that appeared, such as Javi's survival or Van, Taisa visiting Van at her store, or Callie and Shauna having a moment of come to Jesus moment where Shauna tells her the truth. There was, like what Noah's saying, there's no consequence that results from it. It's not even that there is something dramatic happening in the episode, but there's nothing beyond it happening. I'll kind of give an example on top of Noah's example. With Javi's disappearance, I was actually expecting Travis to have a very deep hatred of Misty going into season 2. And that's because Misty was primarily responsible for Javi disappearing along with Shauna, right? Who ultimately told him to run. And I thought that those two important developments were going to be huge factors heading into season 2 in regards to how the camp would split up. And like what Noah was saying, when Ned Stark's head got cut off, that triggered a chain reaction of events that ended up triggering an entire war in Westeros. But in Yellowjackets, that all seems to happen in a vacuum. All these big developments seem to happen in a vacuum, and a lot of it doesn't carry over from episode to episode. There are other things that do, the trauma, the relationships, but I wonder if it could use a little bit more of that connective tissue. And episode 4 was a bit of a letdown for me in terms of watching it, because it didn't seem to capitalize on the momentum it was developing in the previous episode. So ultimately, I disliked it. That's my thoughts. A lot of overlap with what you guys are saying, but personally, that's why I ended up not liking this one.
It feels like they don't understand great pain and how to make something great from that. They have an idea about this cannibal story, the survival story. It sounds grandiose, but like all the execution and the actual implementation of consequences in life is toothless. It's like they don't understand how things really have consequences and how those things really fall out and become an interesting part of a story, how that can really affect someone in an event. It's almost like they're like, well, we have such an amazing plot line, like, you know, there's the suffering, and it's like, no, there is no suffering, because anytime anything happens, it's fine. It almost makes me feel like it's like it's like all watered down. It's like everything just turns out kind of okay for this group.
Yeah, that's on. It perfectly nails it on the head in terms of how I'm feeling. Things feel too easy, regardless of the girls struggling to survive out in the wilderness and their older counterparts struggling to survive in normal suburban lives. There seems to be too many times where they're let off the hook. And one of the things that we were discussing was, for example, Misty killed someone last season. There's been nothing of consequence that's come out of that event. Shauna killed someone, and now her daughter knows. We have
very little consequence. Very little consequence.
We have yet to see something of consequence come out of it.
Are we absolutely sure she's dead, or just because I looked up like if she was dead or not?
Sure she's dead, because there was a news report. There was a news report on the TV that played that said we found the dead body in a van. So she's definitively dead.
Because I wasn't sure if, like, you know, because like they never really showed like the end result of that, and this show loves to play around with
she
that
did, Nick. She did.
But
Jessica, the reporter.
Okay.
And
she's wearing food.
And so let me just finish my thought. So and there's numerous examples of this. Again, I go back to the Misty and Shauna thing, where if I was an older brother and if I was Shauna, I would feel extremely guilty about the fact that I told him to run and he's gone missing for 3 months. But there's no sort of emotional fallout that comes out of that. And she had just killed her best friend by forcing her to sleep out in the snow. So it was almost like a double down. Like, she's responsible for Javi's death. Well, supposed death, right? Because he's gone missing for 3 months out in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, Jackie's sleeping out in the snow, and she basically forced her out there. And I was hoping for Shauna to kind of grapple with that guilt, that double whammy for a little bit, but that didn't happen as well. And I just feel like they're letting these opportunities to build up dramatic effect in their show out of their grasp. And it's really ending up undercutting the momentum and the emotional drive that a lot of these episodes could have, but don't. With that being said, let's move on to theories and predictions if no one else has anything to say about it.
I just want to say that we're not even going to bring up the hatch. We're not even going to bring it up.
Let's not even go there. That's a whole
It's not even worth bringing up. That's the writers winking at us.
Shame
and I don't like it.
You.
I don't like it. I don't like your cheeky wink.
Because you know what? Lost was actually very good in the beginning, so.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Woo, you can't throw the hatch in if you're not at that level, bro.
I will
it
say.
Didn't even make any sense.
I will say.
Now I got to bleep that.
We got to bleep that out. Wearing little kid glasses.
We could just cut that out.
Is that a little girl? No, I'm just saving it.
So conspiracy theories and predictions. I'm going to just run through what each of us have said. And then if you guys want to change it up or add something new, just chime in after. So Noah, you have asserted that Lottie is not the bad guy of this show. Nick, your theory is that the bad guy is Van. Johnny, your worry is that there is no bad guy. There's a lot of bad guy theories here. Steven, myself, Lottie is the bad guy. So again, we're really fixated on this bad guy thing. And then David, your prediction was Shauna is the Antler Queen. She becomes the Antler Queen in the survival timeline. So anyone want to go first, change up their theories or
I'm sticking with Lottie's not a bad guy.
Okay.
But my new theory is that Walter is 100% a federal agent or he's out to get Misty. He is undercover trying to get her to admit something, and he's playing it off as he's this Redditor, as whatever they call them, spy. What do they call those
For
people?
spy cat, well,
Junior
it's like
detectives.
Yeah, junior
Yeah.
detective. He's playing off as a junior detective, but it's undercover to catch Misty in all of her misgivings that she's done. I think it all leads back to the lady with the smoking cigarette.
So
Interesting.
here's the thing about that theory, right?
Mhm.
Is two things. He has a video of a brick wall collapsing in on him. Now, whether that is actually real or not has yet to be seen, but he was about to show her that video. The other thing is
Mhm.
his bedtime routine. Do you think that he's like researched her enough
Yes.
that he's mirroring her bedtime routine
No,
without
I
her
think
actually...
he thinks
Yeah, it could
it's
be.
her. I think he's worried that she's bugged him.
Okay, got it. Okay.
You know what I mean? I think he knows how she is.
I just think that the show is like kind of bending over backwards to, like what Nick was getting at earlier, to make it seem like they're the perfect fit for each other. And
Yeah.
it's such a natural magnetic attraction that they just
Mhm.
have yet to discover about each other.
Well, he might not be a federal agent, but maybe he has ties to that lady. All I'm saying is that he is out to get Misty
Okay.
because
He
of something
works for the Biden
he
administration.
wronged. She wronged him. She wronged him, and he is out to get her. That's my theory. It doesn't have to be as specific as a federal agent.
All right.
You get
I'm
the
just
point.
writing down Walter is a Fed. So, okay.
Oh my
I have,
god!
I have a
officially-
theory,
That's officially in the theory book.
Hold on.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
Johnny,
okay.
Johnny can go first.
Okay.
All right, so I got a theory now.
I do think that there's no. I think overall it's going to be a toothless evil that drives all this, which I still stand by, which is upsetting to me. For a long time, I've thought Taisa is an agent of that evil. But even in discussing it, and I think this show loves red herrings, kind of throwing you off the scent. I think I think Taisa's trances and all this stuff is like a protective thing. It's not an evil generating thing. I think Taisa is a red herring, and that she's going to end up being the savior from this evil. She has a connection to how to protect them from the evil. So that's my theory. Which I've typically said she's the bad guy or part of it. I actually think she's going to be the safety net where we always think Lottie is. Lottie's going to succumb to it, and I think Taisa is going to be the savior from it.
Here, I second that.
All right, I got a theory. I think Javi is the catalyst of the dissension and the tear between the girls. I don't think it is actually Javi. You know, we commented off screen that he looks a little older. He looks like a little bewildered when they find him. They found him specifically looking for the markings. I think he is like just a shell being manipulated by whatever spirit is out there.
Yeah, he's like possessed.
He's possessed, and he is going to kind of like what's the saying, like put the poison in the ear type thing, and start working at tearing the girls apart because whatever, there's like a motive. But I think it's not Javi. I think he's dead, and this is
I
another.
agree with that.
My theory is that Adam Martin is a relative to the hunter that lived in that cabin, and
Woo!
he was
Kobe, that's a long shot.
I and
I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Kobe. Rest in peace.
yeah. So I think Adam is. Yeah, I think he's related to the guy who owned that hunting lodge, and like his family experienced that evil first, and he knew what was going on. And I can't explain exactly how intertwined he is, but I think I think his family is somehow intertwined with that evil, and it's going to affect the girls in the future timeline.
Okay. And then my new theory is that Adam is actually Shauna's son.
Ooh,
And the reason why I say that, and I know last
that's
episode
really
I said,
weird.
I know it's less weird than her sacrificing her son, which I got
Is
a little
it?
bit of flack for in the comments, deservedly so, because that's quite messed up.
I don't know
But-
if the show wants to be okay with her having sex with her son.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd say
here's-
human sacrifice over
Somehow,
incest.
somehow you're
here's-
okay with that?
Well, so here's what I'm getting at, right? This show is heavily influenced or makes a lot of references to ancient Greek
True.
stuff. Oedipal
Stuff.
Oedipal complex, the feast, right? The Romans countrymen lend me your ears. There's a lot of this stuff kind of swirling around in the show. And I just got to think that, this might be a classic throwback to Oedipus Rex, where a man
It's just
ends up-
Oedipal.
Let's say it's just Oedipus, not
Oedipus. Oh, it's just Oedipus. Okay. Well, he, English major over here failing.
Annyeong.
I think he ends up having sex with his mother. And I think that's the wild discovery, is that Adam is not Javi, but he is actually Shauna's long lost son.
I'm
We're
gonna
not
fight
saying
that
this
just
anymore.
because I think they said he was like the same age as
Well,
Shauna.
you have no evidence.
I mean, he looked like he was the same age
I'm-
as Shauna.
I'm gonna fight that because 100% that baby is dying, and that's the reason why they are saved from the wilderness.
Yeah.
The sacrifice of that baby is why they end up getting saved.
Or Javi takes the baby.
Maybe I got talked back into walking the theory back, but yeah.
Yeah,
That
I think
makes
you should
some-
stick
that
to
makes
your
some
guns.
sense.
Yeah, I think
They've already
Kill it,
implemented.
baby.
They've already shown a million times that blood. Like even Lottie cutting her hand is the reason why Javi came back. You could argue that, right? Like-
Right.
Like this blood sacrifice caused the birds to kill themselves, came the bear to come, and Lottie to stab in the head. Like there's obviously some tie with blood, and the forest giving you something for blood, and that baby's going to be given either not on purpose, maybe by accident, and that's the reason why they end up getting saved, because it's like the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah. So that wraps up our theories and predictions for the season so far, and we'll see if any of them are revealed in the next episode, if we decide to review it.
I was about to say it's
All
time,
right.
time to enact the
So-
protocol.
Enacting Spooky Screen Protocol X.
The way that this works is that if all 5 of us vote, and by simple majority we vote against further reviewing the show, then we stop here. There's no more episode reviews. But if a simple majority votes in favor of keeping on going, then we will keep on going. Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Oh crap!
David changed his vote.
No, I didn't.
Wait,
Oh wait,
why? Yeah, why?
wait!
did-
I thought it thumbs down
okay,
just meant it sucked.
What are you voting, Nick?
That to continue, I'm voting that we wait. Or is up continuing or down continuing? I don't
Up is
know. now.
continuing.
Up
Oh,
is
no,
continuing.
okay.
This looks like a Viagra question.
So
Up is continuing.
So we butchered that vote.
Wait, what? Why is everyone switching now?
So wait,
I didn't.
I
So
went
my-
with
my-
I've been sticking.
David
You wanna
switched.
keep watching?
Nick switched.
I didn't switch. My
Okay.
finger, my thumb was
Hold
down
on,
the
hold
whole
on.
time.
This is easy. Noah, do you want to keep watching?
Yes,
David,
I've
do
gone
you
to
wanna
this long. I've gone this long. I might as well finish.
Okay, Johnny, do you want to keep watching?
Yes.
Okay, David, do you want to keep watching? Steven, do you want to keep watching?
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't want to keep watching.
Wait.
so
I just
David-
want to know, Steven, give a quick reason why. Because we just all we're hearing is the no. Why? Give me why.
I think
love this show.
after
What
a
happened?
season- I mean, after a season and a half of watching how they plan out the show, I don't know if there's anything that's going to dramatically change in the next 5 episodes that's going to make me feel like it's just this push and pull that continues week by week that just kind of ends up disappointing me, and I don't know if that's going to change.
Okay, that's a good reason.
So you think you're better
Matt-
than them?
My reasoning is I'm tired of the constant tease, and I gave this show my heart for a split second, and then it crapped all over me. I was stupid. I was fooled. I shouldn't have fallen in love so quickly. I Mandalorianed it, and it came back to bite me in the
You
butt.
Boba Fett yourself.
Yeah, there it is. That's what it was. I Boba Fetted myself with one episode to be like, oh, this could be good, and then it
So
went bad.
The wild card, crazy man, David is the tiebreaker.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, what do you-
Fantastic.
God.
I had
For the
my
next 30
David loves
next 30
this
minutes
platform.
deciding what he's
no.
going to
I had my thumb down because personally I would stop watching this show, but I feel like we've had so much good engagement and fun conversation with it
It's going to do
that
it
I
for the
wouldn't
views.
that I wouldn't mind. Yeah, wouldn't mind giving it
Whore himself for
one
the
more
views.
episode. Yeah, I'll whore myself out for the comments.
All
All
those
for the
views we
clout.
getting.
He's doing it
Not for the
clout.
cloud, just because I feel like we've had people actually like.
Our channels.
I think we're the only people criticizing this show. I think everybody else like loves this show, has like a bleeding heart for it.
That was like a very chaotic vote, and you can cut out everything that came before it. But the result is
Should we do it again?
favor. No,
3,
three in favor.
2,
No, 3 in
1.
favor of. Shut up. 3 in favor of continuing, and 2 against. So we are going to continue reviewing this show. Next episode, we will see you back next week. I want to close this out. So
I will say, if we all dislike it again, I will be giving it a thumbs down next time. I'm just
I
going to say
agree.
that.
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah,
You have one chance.
Yeah, so I want to thank everyone for watching this semi-chaotic episode review. Unfortunately, we dislike this episode, and I hope you guys end up commenting on whether you disagree and agree with us. Thanks for watching our videos. We really appreciate the support, and if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe and rewatch our previous episode reviews of season 1 and 2. They're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And continue to tune in because we're going to give this another college try for episode 5. This is a Spooky Screen. We appreciate you watching episode 4 review of Yellowjackets season 2, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye. Peace.